I've had some women who I've dated get upset because I wouldn't even take a call from my kid's mom in front of my girl that I was dating. That's how separate I
Oh my
was
God, I
keeping
would
it
love
at
that.
one
That's
point,
so
to where I would
amazing.
tell I would tell I would tell her I would tell her, "Hey,
I'm
I'm gonna
terrible.
take this outside.
That's good.
I would take this outside because I don't want to intoxicate what we have going on with anything that may happen between me and her on this
Hmm.
phone call,
Hmm.
because we have a lot of good conversations, but then there's also a lot of times where that conversation ain't so friendly. When is it time to introduce your child to the new person that you're dating? And I thought it was a real interesting situation. I thought it was a real interesting topic. So I kind of wanted to share it. And I actually have a story about how I introduce my child to prospective women that I date. But I'll let you guys kind of go ahead and get it started. Kay, being the resident married man, when did you feel like it was time for you to introduce your kid to your wife now, or even if you want to just go back to when you were just dating,
Yeah,
when do you think it's appropriate to introduce your kid to a woman that you're dating?
yeah. So I'd say there's a point in a relationship where things are going from like casual sex relationship into an actual relationship. And when it starts to go into that territory, it's about time to get people introduced, kids, possibly parents, things like that. Um, for me, at that time, so my son was 8, and it was an odd situation because we were all playing at the YMCA, so it was almost like more instant than what would typically happen in a relationship. Um, so everybody started to understand and knew what was going on pretty early before things really got to that next level. But it did also happen pretty quick that it got to that next level. So luckily for me, all of that took place. But I'd say um, you want to know if there's going to be some sort of long term positioning there, because if you don't, then you're potentially just bringing people in and out of your kid's life that doesn't give them that consistency. Kids are big on that structure and things like that. So when it starts to become like a revolving door, I'm not saying it would be harmful. I don't know. Kids are pretty resilient. I just think that ideally you would have that step to where, okay, this is becoming a real relationship and there's some long term potential here.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
Jamie, when do you feel like it's appropriate to, I guess, meet a man's children, being as though you're a single woman that doesn't have children? When do you think that it's appropriate for you to meet a man's children?
Um, this is a kind of a tough one because everything feels so situational. Because I've met a man's kid and wasn't going anywhere, and I've met, I was engaged to somebody who had a child, and that was great. I was cool with the child's mom, the child, all of these things. So, um, I don't know, because okay, so the fact that I don't have kids, it's hard for me to answer, but I feel like if I was in the situation and I was single with kids, I would really try to, depending on their age, like 8 sounds like a good age, to communicate with them what is going on. Like, mommy's single, this is what I'm doing, and try to communicate as much as possible, because as optimistic as I can be, just because things are headed towards something that looks exclusive and long term doesn't mean it always ends up there. So it's like, I would want the child to be okay with understanding a little bit about how adults function and what it looks like and stuff like that. So for me, being on the receiving end, I'm just kind of open to it. It doesn't really matter to me because I can never tell if the relationship is going somewhere or not. And it's just like, it's kind of like on the guy, like, what do you want to do with your kid? How do you roll? Like I said, one of the last guys I dated, one of the last few guys, like I met both of his kids and we were on FaceTime and talking, and he had another girl pregnant. Like, it's just like, we don't know, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's not that much of an indicator. Who knows what people do behind closed doors. And
Do you
then, like
think that was? Do you think that was immature? Do you think that was negligent parenting to
I
be
mean,
introducing you to his kids and he got
mhm.
another woman pregnant? He has no intention of marrying you. Do you think that's like
Yeah.
a negligent move? Do you think that's bad parenting?
Yeah, but I don't really expect much, from him because he don't take care of himself well. So,
Hmm.
you kind of, that kind of stuff unfolds um a little bit down the line. It's not always easy to see, and this was an interesting situation how it started. So, yeah, I kind of thought like, I wonder if his son ever just slipped and like said something from talking to Jamie or this and that. But it's really none of my business. But it again, I don't have kids, so it's so hard. I don't mind meeting anybody's kid, and it's just like whatever to me because I love kids. I don't have a problem with nobody, but the timing, I just don't think I'm in a position to really. I don't know. I really don't. I'm cool with it because
What
it's
if you?
part of
What
their
if you?
life. So
What if you dated a dude for like, I don't know, a year and a half and didn't meet his kids?
yeah, I'm not
Would
doing
you have a
that.
problem with that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna date a dude for a year and a half, anyways. Like if we, because like you said, Kev, at that point, if we got to know we're headed towards some kind of serious, or it's just I'm not doing a year and a half
Well,
without
let's say
the
he
full
he felt like
picture.
it was serious and like hadn't introduced you. Like that's too long, right?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like I can't be that serious. I would not assume that I was serious in your life, off of that. And to be honest with the man, I do have the expectation that he takes the lead. And I'm watching for stuff like that. So I am looking for, how he moves with that. Not to say it's an indicator on where we are, but I'm just very observant about what that looks like. But
Yeah.
I'm very trustworthy. I'm good with people's kids. Like I'm not weird, and I'm not mean to kids and taking things out. I don't say weird shit around kids and all that. So I
Yeah.
think people have been comfortable with it, but
Mhm.
I don't know. When's the right time? Who knows? I don't
Okay.
know anything.
So for me, I would say a good time to introduce your children to the person that you're dating is when you guys are about a year away from marriage. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you guys are engaged, but it just means that I don't think you should introduce your children until you guys have talked about marriage and you guys have already decided that marriage is going to happen and maybe the proposal is kind of days away. And the reason I say that is because I had a situation um, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that. But now that I think about it, might have been even longer than that.
It's those Coco years messing everybody
Right?
up.
Yeah, it's
Them Coco 19 years.
yeah, that pandemic stuff
Yeah, that gap.
got me
It's like,
thrown off.
yeah.
But I dated a woman for about a year and some change, and I didn't introduce her to my child. The reason I didn't introduce her to my child is I take meeting my child very seriously. Like, with my child, I feel like I can't miss. Like, if it's me and we dating and shit don't work out, I can miss. But with my child, I feel like I can't miss.
Mhm.
Like, I'm just the type of dad to where I'm very protective, and I feel like at the end of the day, I have to be very, very responsible for her, right? And so, with that being said, we dated for over a year and some change. I didn't introduce her to my child at the time. Me and my child's mom were kind of going back and forth to court, just finalizing some things, and I couldn't take the risk of bringing somebody new into the mix, and then that throwing off what I had going on in court. Right?
Mhm.
We had an order of certain things going on, but I was waiting for that order to actually manifest, right? To go from what we were doing to what we had been ordered to do. But there was a brief time period, probably about 4 or 5 months, from basically my custody situation, um, where the judge had ordered it but didn't decree it for like another 4 or 5 months. It wasn't going to kick in. So in that time, I was like, hey, I can't take no chances on anything, to being disturbed, right? And I let her know, like, hey, I can't introduce you until these things get settled. Like this is my kid, and she got a little bent out of shape about it. Like, oh, well, if we're not serious, and you should, and she just really didn't get that it wasn't about her. It was actually about the court date.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was actually about making sure that I didn't have no slip ups that were going to derail what I already had intended for my child. And
Yeah.
so I look at things very, very different when it comes to people introducing their kids. I think the first priority should always be the children. Like, what's best for the children? And then after you talk about what's best for the children, then what's best for you guys. But I always think that when you're talking about how you want to bring your child into someone else's life, or even, I'm sorry, vice versa, right? Because it's the children first. If you talk about bringing someone else into the child's life, I think the both of you have to be on the same page as is what's best for the child, and then we kind of go from there. I think that was kind of my take. And so, yeah, I feel like sometimes dudes can not really be tripping off you and be like, "Nah, I ain't bringing you around my child." But I think if you guys talk and communicate, like, if the person really has some type of situation going on, whether it's a living situation, a financial situation, or a court situation, what happens when you have children out of wedlock, I think people have to be very cognizant that these things aren't just arbitrary, and that there's real reasons why there may be a delay in meeting someone's children, and there may be a good reason why you should delay meeting someone's child. But I don't know. You guys tell me what you think.
Did
Jay,
you
you seem
did
like
you
you got
have
something going on.
really clear communication with her about it? Like, were you very transparent about it? Was everything on the table? Were these things that you came to her and you guys spoke about?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at that time, yeah, these things were very
Because I
transparent.
because I can say this, like, for me, and maybe I'm sure I have a level of selfishness because I don't have children. But it's like, I'll say it because I'm not dating you and it don't matter and I don't care who's watching this, but it's like, no woman wants to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on your list ever in life. And when you think about if you're going to go to the level of marriage, then, my belief is the union comes first and then the kids. Not because the kid is not important, that's asinine, but because if y'all two ain't good, then all of that's going to trickle down to the rest of the household. So I'm not sure how serious it gets or when that level of communication comes into play, but a woman has to feel secure. If it's my kid, my kid, my kid, then I think y'all need to go.
So I'm gonna
Okay.
follow up on that. I think what your scenario is supportive of something that Jamie said earlier about it being almost a case by case basis.
Hmm.
Um, there's, I mean, if you haven't experienced child support, the courts, and all of that, then it's tough to understand that process. Like, it's a
Yeah.
cold process, boy.
Whole process.
And especially for the man in the relationship, like you coming in there on your hands and knees with your pockets turned out, like you got nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
you have to be able to.
Oh,
I
I couldn't hear anything. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
all right. I was just saying that I think KB's situation um, supports one of the things you mentioned about it being really almost like a case by case basis. It's very situational.
Yeah.
It's hard to know, what should happen unless you're in that scenario. Now, in this case, I would say that that was the right thing to do, because
I
you
agree.
it's not as much about now I will also say, Jamie, I agree with you about the marriage and the union. That becomes the top priority. But until then, like your child and your ability to be able to take care of your child, to see your child. And what I was saying, Jamie, is that there's so many things that happen in the courts and in child support cases that are so against the what would can be considered the non-custodial parent, but it's typically the man, or the
Correct.
father. Is just you're fighting this uphill battle, and any little thing you do could slip you all the way down that hill, and then you got nothing, right? And so
Yeah.
there's not even a relationship to be had, because now you're missing your child, and all of these things can domino. But
Yeah.
once you can overcome that, then yeah, that all has to come together. But I also think that the person who you're experiencing this with should understand that. Like you got to understand the situation. You got to be have some situational awareness here to see what's going on, and that it's a long-term goal. This isn't a game of checkers. We're playing chess. We're running a
Agreed.
marathon. We're not running a 100-yard dash. And if we're going to run a marathon and spend a lifetime together of 40 years possibly with a kid who growing up to an adult, like there's a lot of time to be had, and things have to, the foundation has to be set and has to be created. So very unique situation that you had going on.
Yeah.
Mine was
Yeah,
almost
the
the opposite. So
foundation definitely needs to be set. And that's why I was asking you, Kay, about the communication, because she got to know you're playing the long game. Because nobody, again, well, I'm not going to say nobody, but me as a single woman, I'm not going to hang around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years while you and your baby mama figure it out. You're going to have to be single and get it together, because if I don't feel like, it's not even just about the guarantee, but if I don't feel like we matter, it's included, and I don't feel real solid about our union, which would take a little bit more effort on your part. And I know that's hard for some men, because I've seen and been through a lot of situations when they got stuff going on with their family and their kids and all this and that. Sometimes it'd be like a one-track mind, and then the other person's expected to understand. But when you're entering something new and potential and early, that's supposed to be the fun part and the good part for her too. So it's like there should be some absolutely situational awareness. Like you said, if you're communicating, you're like, this is what's going on, I got 5 months of it, I'm really not mad at that. But I also just want to throw out there that the little one step more it might take to just make sure she's good too, even though you got all of this going on, and court is a lot. I think it could work.
Like when you say one step more, what does that mean? Like, because I know people out,
Whatever.
I know our viewers are probably listening to you and they're going like, okay, what does one step more mean?
Sometimes I feel like people assume that, kind of like what you said, Kev, like situational awareness. So it's like, let's say if it was me and you, right? I'm going to be expected to have a certain level of understanding that it is important. I get it. This is not a time where we need homegirl tripping off something. Now it's just going to cause more turmoil until this thing is done, it's decreed, it's on paper, it's signed, it's in the books, and blah, blah. That's understandable. But I feel like sometimes, because men have this expectation of understanding for one person, they slack off a little bit. So not because they mean to, but because they're so busy with this other thing. So
Slack
I'm
off
just
with what? What do you mean?
attention, time, communication,
Mm.
importance, setting across sacred time, love, just all of the things,
Okay.
whatever it's going to be in that. Just skipping date nights, skipping phone calls, less sacred time, always distracted all the time, just a little bit like, what I got going on, so I got to focus over here, and that don't
mhm.
work. Like, so
Right.
sometimes it takes a little bit more
Right.
from you to just be like, I got to make sure this is good and this, and
Well, I
then
agree with you.
she can
I agree with
support.
you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But in my situation back then, none of that lagged off. It was simply,
Mm.
you gotta wait 6 more months until this gets wrapped up. That's it. After
Yeah.
that, you can meet whoever.
Mm-hmm.
But I just can't introduce you until
Mm-hmm.
that gets wrapped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was no like slacking off. It wasn't like it was
Okay.
like, hey, I'm gonna dedicate all my time and attention to this. It was like,
Yeah.
nah, everything had already been signed. The only thing that I was waiting for at that particular time was the delivery,
So
right?
she was just eager to meet the kid, or what was the
Yeah.
separation?
Yeah, I guess she was super eager to meet the kid, super eager to be involved,
Yeah.
like just kind of
Now, but
all of
you know
that.
what, Kelly? Sometimes women have like this competitiveness when there's a mom, a baby's
Yeah.
mother, and a
Yeah.
girlfriend, and
Yeah.
and and that child sometimes becomes a pawn in that game of wanting to show who you are in this,
Yeah.
that, and that's for the man, right? So for you, she wanted to be able to assert her,
Right.
her claim of
Presence.
you. Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
That goes south. That goes south
Yeah.
real quick.
It goes south real
It
Yeah,
quick.
does.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like, I've experienced, and that wasn't necessarily my experience. Like, my wife she's unique. She's not the typical woman, and so she didn't have the same emotions as most women do.
Right.
And my son's mom was a bit unique too, but she was a little bit more emotional about things, and it was a little bit it created a lot more tension in the situation than it needed to be. So yeah, man, that can turn into a dog fight that you don't want to deal with.
But your wife already
Yeah.
had kids, right?
Yep,
Did
yep.
your did that girl already have kids, Kay? That you was
Nah.
talking to? Yeah.
Nah,
So
she
I
didn't.
think that's a lot different too. One, there's a level of misunderstanding, um, and yeah, I think that's where it just comes from. It's a level of misunderstanding because it is out of the norm, so to speak, of a nuclear family, blah blah blah. So it can be hard to understand. It's been hard for me to understand because I can be open and be there and this and that, and when things get weird, I'm just like, I start to mistrust the man. I start to
Yeah.
Mhm.
get a little bit of a fear, like it's gonna be like this forever, and I'm not playing third to a child, so I'm
Right.
not gonna do it.
Yeah. I think it's like Kev said, you have to, if you're gonna be a part of that relationship, a part of that union, the union supersedes everything once there's a union. But
Hmm.
before that union, you need to build a foundation first. Like there needs to be a foundation of man, woman, and child, right? You can't just have man and woman and then child be, in the
After
in
your
the in the
shit is done,
balance
yeah.
somewhere. You know what I'm saying? No,
Mhm.
it has to be man, woman, child. And if the child is the one that is the piece that is not included, well then the both of you need to work as hard as you can to get that child to where it needs to be. And when I say the both of you, I mean, sometimes as the woman, that just means you gotta fall back. That just means you gotta fall back and let dude take care of his business. And
Mhm.
then once he gets his business taken care of, then at that point he can bring you into the fold. And then, you guys' union can be established with a healthy foundation. The man doesn't have to worry about what's going on with the kid or anything like that because he's already got that established. And then the three of you, four of you, five of you, six of you, however many children it is,
Mhm.
can go about building, that long lasting life together. But
There has to be a lot of trust, and a man would really have to take the reins for that to go smooth. Like it would have
yeah,
to be
when you say
because
take
there.
when you say
Mhm.
take the reins, what do you mean by that? Because I know, like, I'm curious what you mean by that, and I know our viewers are curious about that. What do
I
you mean
mean,
by take the
I mean,
reins?
take the reins. Kind of just reiterating what I was saying, like you're gonna really have to do your part to add the bricks of like trust and trust, consideration, and
How,
dang, the word
how do
was on the
you
tip of my
add? How do you
tongue.
add it in this particular instance? How do you add the bricks of trust?
Well, because it
What does that
depends
look
on
like?
the person you're dating, right? So
Hmm.
I had a similar situation, but the pieces on the board were just a little bit different. And I feel like, where it became uncomfortable for me is that this man, it was all union, union, union until things started to go left. And then I'm starting to see how he handles um, life things. And so
Hmm.
now the wheel is shaky. And I'm like, the wheel is shaking. Like, do we need screw? Like, what do we
Like
need?
what type
And
of life things? What was happening? Tell us what was happening, Jamie. Like, you talking in code over there.
I
Shit.
am, because
Tell us
I
what's
just feel like
happening. What the
they
nigga went into bankruptcy or something? Like,
no,
give
they
it
were in a
to us.
situation where they had to take care of someone sick.
Hmm.
They were the primary caregiver to someone.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
as understanding as I could be about that, it started out being like something that was balanceable, but
Hmm.
that was a challenging situation. So, it felt like a squeaky wheel. So, it became to the point now I'm not coming at this person crazy or with this or that. I'm just being genuine about who I am
Right.
and what was going on. And that was too much for them. And it ended up being me off the plate, as
Mhm.
opposed to having enough energy for a conversation. So it was very disturbing to connect with someone who was so all about union, union, union. And the second a life thing comes up, I was nowhere near able to rely on you at all. And
Mhm.
it just didn't register. So it was just like, it wasn't like I'm not asking you to be at my house every day to pay all my bills. That I'm standing in the gap, like I'm here for you. I am facilitating as somebody who's a helper in the situation.
Mhm.
But the second now that I have, something on my plate to share about our relationship, it's just too much, and and it's like I am
Wait, so
not
what
the
did
one
you okay,
stressing you
okay.
out.
Okay. So like what did
So,
you what was on your plate that needed to be addressed that wasn't being addressed? Like,
so
and
I
hold on,
let them.
let me hold on. I'm just trying to get an idea of what you're
Okay.
saying because it's a little bit in code, so I'm trying to
It
figure it
is.
out.
I don't never
But
realize I'm talking so much in code.
yeah, nah, yeah. So basically, the guy was good to go. Talking about a union when you guys first met. Then he had some child support issues or something like that going on, and then he became a primary caregiver to his mom, grandma, somebody like that. And then at that point, once he became a primary caregiver, he stopped paying attention to you. He stopped coming to visit you. He stopped being able to go out on date nights. Like what
Yeah, he
actually
fell off.
stopped?
He fell off.
When you
What
say
was
he fell
important,
off, what
he
what
fell off of
happened?
all of that. Fell off of consistent calls.
Okay, okay,
Fell off nothing on the books to
right,
spend time. Nothing.
okay,
It got to the
okay.
point where I had to schedule a time to talk to you, and I was still willing to do
Ah,
that. Friday at eight
okay,
o'clock, we're gonna have a
okay,
conversation. So I'm watching him do the kids and this and this and this. You doing everything, and you think it's okay that, oh, I forgot to call. It's not okay. I am not a side note. I am not
mm-hmm,
the piece of parsley on your full plate. I am, you know what I mean? So,
right,
and so I grew up. Um, my sister was an addict. I have two
mm-hmm,
sisters. One of my sisters was an addict, and all I did was share with him is like, this is triggering for me. I grew up with somebody sick in my household, and that's where all the attention went. And people look at me like I'm good because I can function, but it doesn't mean I don't need anything. And
right,
so I just shared that, like, this is a little triggering. I want to balance, myself
right.
out. Go take your few days, go travel, do what you got to do, but we'll reconvene when you get back. And there was no reconvening. It was just like,
Mm.
and I'm like,
But if
you're doing
but if
all
he
that
would
freaking out.
but if he would have called you every day, twice a day, three times a day, took you out every week, had a scheduled date night with you that he was going to every week, um, like would those would be the things that you would have said, okay, he can still manage me, he can still maintain our relationship. He's actually strong enough to do all of these things, including take care of me.
Well, yeah, it would have to be that. It was more consideration and reassurance rather than I need my dates and my flowers and all this
Right.
on time. Like it takes what 8 minutes to send flowers to somebody's house. Like we're not talking about nobody's asking you. You need to pay on my bill. Nobody's even coming at you like that. But
Right.
some reassurance and some awareness and some consideration that you're running your mouth that this is what you want. But the second things get hard, I'm starting to see this, and that
Mm,
makes me nervous because
yeah.
guess what? Life is going to happen every
Mhm.
fucking day. We are adults, so what you're showing me in action, not with your mouth, is that when life gets hard, you can't handle it, and I don't trust
Mm,
that, and I can't marry that. because I'm
Right.
gonna be over here doing absolutely nothing while you're figuring out like you. This was an opportunity for us to grow together, and instead you chose to do things your way and whatever they
Mhm.
got going on. So that's what I'm saying. For me, it's not even the fact that it's a kid or this or that. Most people know those things, but I just feel like a man with that expectation for somebody to partner with you on these types of things, there needs to be a level of consideration, because if that is missing, because I know these things can be strenuous, you're gonna there's gonna be a problem here.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So I'm gonna give a little push. I'm gonna give a little pushback on that, just a little bit. So as a man, a lot of times we want to protect women, right? We want to protect the women that we care about, right? And so I know a lot of times, especially in my life, I have kept my woman away from the dirt that I had going on before I met her.
mhm.
And it was like, hey, listen, I'm going to take care of this. Trust and believe. I'm not going to forsake you, but
Reassurance.
I need to take care of these things on the side. All right. So our seeing each other, none of that's going to fall off. But I don't want to introduce you to these problems over here because that's going to build stress between me and you. Because what's going to happen as a woman is you're going to naturally want to nurture what's going on with me, right? But that's going to get in my way. It's the
Is
same.
it?
Yeah, it
Why?
will. It will. Okay, so
How? I
check
need to
this
know
out.
that.
Check
I
this
need to
out. Check
understand
this out.
that.
I heard Andrew Tate, as a matter of fact. He said something that I thought was very, very interesting. He said, I don't hold my woman's hand when we walk down the street. And the reason I don't hold my woman's hand when we walk down the street is because if some shit pop off, I need both hands to address what's about to happen. I can't be holding your goddamn hand and taking care of these niggas at
Yeah,
the same time.
that's
And
dumb
for
as fuck,
me,
Jay.
I
you
think I
said
was gonna
what?
say I'm.
So
Can I
dumb.
please
Like
help? Help!
what's your
Help!
hand 3 inches over to the
I
side gonna be a difference in having to put your
I
hands up for it?
it wasn't okay. It wasn't. I didn't take it literal.
No, I know. I'm
I
just
didn't
But
take
saying.
it
even in the
literal.
sense, I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around it
I
too, and I'll tell you
I
why.
took it as look. Sometimes as a man, you have to shoulder the burden of responsibilities that you don't want the other person to have to shoulder.
I think you
Like
guys got to stop doing that. That
No, no,
frustrates me.
no. That no. I gotta back KB up on that. There are
Okay.
things that there are emotions and reactions that women have to certain situations that will make it 100 times worse. You tend to worry more. You tend to see things and like in some ways it's good because it keeps us, at least in my relationship, it keeps us on our toes. But if you introduce all of what we're carrying on our backs, like no, that shit would go. It gets bad. You've got
yeah,
to be able to shoulder the responsibilities of being a man, being a father, being a husband, leader of your family, and have certain aspects of. It's not nothing to hide. There's nothing being hidden in like a. I'm going to hide some sort of secret from you.
right,
There's things that
right.
I need to take care of that I cannot bring you into because of your reactions and how you're gonna, we don't need to talk about it. I don't need to talk about it. I need to
Hmm.
handle it. Right. And
Yeah,
and we
Okay.
start getting into the whole, talking, and then you start worrying, and now I gotta worry about you worrying. Like I already
hmm,
got this shit to take care of. I can't worry about your worry on top of that.
right, right.
I mean,
And
as much as okay, go ahead. Sorry.
and I think that's where as a woman you have to trust the man that you choose.
I was gonna say trust,
Hmm.
You got to
but then
trust
that goes
him.
back to what you said. You're like,
Yeah,
this isn't falling off. You're
right,
Yeah.
communicative about that. When you miss those things,
right,
Yeah, see, I,
right.
I think I think KB's scenario was a little different. Like he's not falling off. Like what you had,
yeah,
Jamie, was
that's different.
somebody who was completely not ready for a relationship, and not
That's
good or
yeah.
bad because
No, not. I don't want to
sometimes,
demonize
yeah,
them. It's
no,
not.
I hear
It's
you.
not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, because life
Yeah,
happens. Like there's things that become a priority that might even help you to realize that you're not ready for a relationship,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's what you guys experienced. But
Yeah.
KB's situation, I think it was more of This young lady was pressing on something and not realizing that she herself wasn't ready because she was too gung ho trying to move into something in a um, like in a speedy way that was unnecessary. Like, again, you gotta certain things you gotta take slow. It takes time to make it and create.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to rush into something like that, then you're gonna make some mistakes and
Yeah.
it's gonna be faulty.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. But
Yeah.
so then let me ask you guys this. How do I say? Because that was a real life thing for you.
Right.
So how and when do you test, experience any kind of hardships together to see if you can do it together if you're not trying? Because like I said, let's say, right, we're all dating for marriage. We want to get married, which means I'm gonna see you day in and day out. So I don't know how much you think you finna hide, especially when you have a woman who has dreams and intuitions and can feel stuff before it comes. Like the way, I mean, some of us are really wildly tapped in. So it's like you couldn't hide it if you thought you wanted to. So how do you, when does it become important for you to understand the type of woman you're dealing with and what can be handled and what can't? And I'm asking because, like with this particular person, I don't know. I'm not going to say they fumbled the bag because I don't think you can fumble something that's not for you. But it's like, while you over there shouldering everything and barely making it, I'm over here doing absolutely nothing and completely available
Yeah.
to assist a little bit,
Hold on, let me take this, Kay.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
So
Kay.
so help
Go
me
ahead.
understand. Help me
yeah,
understand.
Go ahead.
there's not everything. We can't. You're right. We can't keep everything away. And my wife has all of that. All of that you just said. I'm like, damn, that's her. Like, she has dreams. She's tapped in. All of that shit.
Yeah.
So it's not everything. We've got our share of time and things that we've gone through that have built us, and we've gone through the fire plenty of times, and will continue to, right, in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so it's not all of it. So there are things that we have to do together that help forge this relationship that have built it over time. And we've
Mm-hmm.
had a number of life situations happening, outside forces, internal things that we brought on ourselves. So you're dealing with things that you already have. It's adding other stuff on top of that. It's adding things that don't necessarily need to be brought into the fold because there's not really a way for you to help. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just certain things that happen in our lives that as men that we know we need to take care of, that if we bring this to the table, it's going to make it more difficult to handle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those things to be true, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
but I think
Okay.
you know these things as you get to know somebody,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not
Exactly.
like you prejudge them before you even meet them and go, "Oh, okay. Yeah." But, if you meet somebody, you can see how they handle stress,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When women, and I'm not going to say all women, but a lot of women, when it gets really stressful, they get really angry and mean, and they'll snap at you real fast because they stress the fuck out. But as men, we don't do that. Our when And I'm not gonna say all men. I'm not gonna say all men,
I know.
but a lot of men, most men that I know, when we get stressed out, it goes internal. We shut down, right? It's
Yes.
like let me
The
let me sit on
shutdown.
this, right?
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not projecting it at you. We ain't getting into fights. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see my whole demeanor change. Oh, this
Mm-hmm.
nigga got something on his mind. He got something on his
Mm-hmm.
head,
Yeah.
right? But I'm I'm
Right.
I'm quiet now. I'm sitting. I'm relaxing. I'm trying to chill, right? I ain't
Mm-hmm.
trying to get
Mm-hmm.
into no back and forths with you. I'm easy breezy. But
Mm-hmm.
you, on the other hand, and not you, Jamie, but you women out there, you get stressed out. You start feeling my stress. Then I start telling you about what my stress is. Next thing you know, you running around a mile a minute trying to fix shit. And the whole time I'm like, chill. I don't need you
Hmm.
to run around a mile a minute. This is the long game. It's
Hmm.
gonna come. It's gonna come to me. Okay? I don't gotta
Mm-hmm.
run to it. You wanna run to it. But
True.
I'm like, we don't need to do that. I
Right.
need it to come to me. and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna handle it as it comes to me. I'm building as it comes to me so I can knock it down once it's in front of me,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Okay.
So that's when, as a woman, that's when you have to be like, I trust this man.
Hmm.
I've seen him
Yeah,
do it.
that's
I
what it
know he
comes
can do
down
it.
to,
I
boy.
believe it. I believe in him. I believe he can do it. I'm gonna let him handle it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you let that man handle it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because
Yeah.
this is how the team works. Like a
Hmm.
lot of times people think like a team is like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then you gonna do that, and we gonna meet in the middle.
And
And
sometimes it's just shut down.
nah.
Go
Sometimes,
do that. Go with your
yeah.
friends.
Sometimes if you tell me, babe, I got Thanksgiving dinner set, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sit my ass right there on the couch
Hmm.
and let you knock that out. Because when I get in there with all these left thumbs on my
Hmm.
hands, you're gonna be
Hmm.
like, nigga, move!
Get out of my kitchen.
Get out of my kitchen. And so this is what I mean. Like sometimes women have to do that. Sometimes women have to
Yeah.
just go and sit on the couch. But you got to trust that the man is going to be able to take care of whatever it is that he's saying he needs to take care of. Just like when it comes to Thanksgiving, you tell me you're going to take care of Thanksgiving dinner. Guess what? I'm going to let you take care of it. I'm going to
Yeah.
trust that you ain't going to burn everything in the goddamn kitchen.
Right.
All
We having
right?
company.
Right. We having
But
company.
see, and so two things, I mean, I guess that, stood out to me is it's the communication and the trust. If you
Yeah.
have that, then I really don't think any of that other stuff is a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And those
Because
things
if,
build
yeah,
up. Like you were saying, both of you mentioned, you got to know the person, and
yeah,
that trust needs to build up. So yeah, you're gonna stumble through some things in the beginning. You're gonna and you start to know better. Okay, what are the things that I need to introduce, and what are the things that I need to keep here? So
hmm,
it's something that you learn for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think these are good. It doesn't seem like it could be, but these don't seem like, even back to your situation, Kay, things that are good to go on too early in the relationship because there's
Yeah.
not enough on your
Yeah.
end and there's not enough on her end. She doesn't have enough trust. You're not all the way sure how to communicate, and or whatever it is. It just, I don't know. Maybe these bumps in the road can come a little bit too early, and I think I've seen it break. Not only my situation but other situations because um, people seem like they're really cool with throwing people away these days, as if there's so many options and so
But
much.
Jamie, that might be just meant to be, right? Like that person, it's not as much of it being too early as you guys just weren't the ones. It wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, and
You
not
know?
just in my situation, but I feel like I've seen it a little bit. Like if it's in the first 3 months, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, that it's hard for people, like when these certain things hit, there's not enough built up to get through it sometimes.
And that's why I say, for me, I say you guys shouldn't introduce the kids until you guys are actually planning like a wedding. Like I don't think kids need to be involved because, like you said, Jamie, the first 3 to 6 months you ain't built up enough.
There's
You
kind
know,
of not
I
enough
mean,
there.
I mean, unless you guys are together every single day,
Hmm.
then maybe you did. But if you guys are seeing each other once or twice a week for 6 months,
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough there. Now, like I said, I don't fault people. If you feel comfortable and you trust the person, I believe that every single situation is different,
Hmm.
right?
Correct.
Like if I didn't have a court case at that particular time, I probably would have introduced her to my daughter a little bit sooner, right? But um I think every situation is different. You guys gotta have time spent. You guys can't have any outside situations that, um, meeting the child could be, detrimental to one person or the other.
Yeah.
Um, and you guys have to really talk about like, okay, like let me be understanding because since we haven't started our union yet, the child should be the most important
Hmm.
asset at this particular time. Now, once we
Yeah.
get married, then that changes. But
Well, not after you get me. You gotta. There has to be some demonstration before the I do, in my opinion.
what do
You
you mean?
can't think that I do, like you say. After you get married, to me, there has to be a demonstration of the level of commitment and union before the actual wedding date, or
Right,
else.
right. But what do you mean level of commitment to the union?
Well, whatever you were saying, then after we're married, this, that, and the other, and I'm just saying, you probably want to demonstrate whatever it's going to be after the I do's sometime before that, so she knows what she's getting into,
But
whatever that means for you.
if you're getting married, you got to know your spouse. I mean, if you are going in thinking, okay, once we say I do, things are going to change. No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
not going to
exactly.
change.
It's
Right.
not. It's just
You're
another day.
already,
Yeah.
but it is like. So back to my situation real quick. Like shit moved at the speed of light. Like I
Mhm.
wouldn't recommend it. It was a unique situation. Like we were moved in, families all together. I went from one kid to three kids. She went from two to three, and like that. And it was like kids all of a sudden got siblings that they don't even barely know. Like shit was on 150 miles per hour.
Right.
So not recommended, but we knew going in to getting married where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get married, the union is there and it's kind of official, but I think to your point, Jamie, there is that understanding prior to it, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think KB is saying like, oh no, at the marriage it flips and there's something different there, but
Right.
there's just before you get into like that, like I was saying, that next level, like there's a point in a relationship where it's like, okay, this is next level shit. Like I can see myself spending my life with you, and unless some crazy shit happens, that's where we're gonna be, and that's
Unless
when you guys can get it together.
fuck.
But yeah, it's always a unique situation, but there's got to be some level of discretion with your
Yeah.
kid to
Well, I just
protect everybody.
I
Yeah.
believe that when you get married to a woman, your household is basically man, woman, and child in that order, right? Meaning, man leads, woman is the second in command, and then the children are underneath that. So the orders come from the head of the household, and then everything cascades down. But before you're married, that's not the order. Before you're married, your children are your priority, whether you're a man or a woman. Your children come first before anybody that you're dating. But once you guys are married, then basically you and the man and the woman become one, and the message from those two cascade to the children. So it's not like man talks to the child and says, oh yeah, you can do one thing, and then the woman says you can do something else, and now the man is choosing the side of the child, or the woman is choosing the side of the child. It's like, no, 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 we are a united front, and what we tell the children is what the children do. So if the order comes from me that the child does X, it's the same thing as if the order comes from the wife that the child do X. Those two are the same because the man and the woman are now unified together, right? So it's it's
Yeah,
it's man, woman, child, and it's not like it is before you're married, where it's man to child, girlfriend.
I, I don't know, Kay, because when you are in a unique situation where you've got children involved in a serious relationship, those type of things start to morph before you say I do. Like there's not some change in the process just because you guys stood in front of a whoever and had some exchange vows. Like
That's
that
what I'm
Right,
doesn't
thinking.
trigger a change in the relationship. All that
right,
type of stuff starts to
right.
develop and it is established. And that is partially why you're able to get married because you guys understand, you have that understanding. Like there's not going to be a light switch that changes how the dynamic is once you guys stand in front of somebody to exchange some words. So like
Right.
Yeah, and that's where
Right.
my brain is coming from. Like, I need to know the full situation, or, I mean, it's not going to be easy for me either. And to be
Right.
honest, I don't know if a kid would appreciate that either. Like,
Right, but
who's
I
this?
don't think I'm saying on a wedding day, as soon as vows are exchanged, boom, everything changes, right? Because yes, as you guys move up to the wedding, you start to build that, that formation as to how things are going to look after, you guys move in together or get a house together or married or whatnot, right? But I'm saying, like, if we haven't even gotten engaged,
Yeah,
like, I'm not running everything I do with my child through you.
that's
We're not
fair.
even engaged.
That's fair.
Like, um, I don't think that is necessary. Now, I don't fault people who know, like, yeah, we're gonna get married, so I want to start this a little sooner than later. That's fine. I think it's tomatoes, tomatoes, right? It's like, hey, if you know you're gonna get married, you guys have already talked about married, you guys have already went ring shopping, you're actually serious about being married. Okay, yeah, you guys can start. You guys can get a start on how you're going to form your family. I get that. But if you're dating somebody for 6 months, you're dating somebody for 8 months, and then that person meets your child, I don't think at that point that person gets to start calling shots with your child, or that you got to run everything that you do with your child through that person. Like,
Not calling
I don't.
shots or running everything through, but this is, I never used to understand. And now I think as I experience more, I understand why people say, people with kids should date people with kids. Because I don't know. I don't have kids, and and maybe it's just my issues, but if I don't feel included and it doesn't look like something is headed somewhere, I'm not staying. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel safe to me.
Right.
yeah.
So
But
I'm
I
not saying that I gotta be bossing your daughter around, but if I guess we would have to figure out what that means then. But if I don't feel like we're doing this, then I'm out. Like, I'm not. I don't know. I can't function because I just have a real thing about not just being some little side moment for a guy and his child, or a guy and his family, or whatever else he's doing. I need to be a priority, or I don't want I could just stay by myself.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that there should be some of this, right? But
Yeah.
how fast did your fingers move?
Well, I don't know.
Your fingers moved like this. Your
Yeah.
fingers didn't do this. Your fingers didn't go, "Hey, I met your child. Here we go. We here now." Like, goddamn, like,
No, I get it.
can a
I'm just
nigga can a
saying.
nigga
Look,
introduce
hey,
you to his
hey,
kid and get the kid warmed up to you? Is
hey.
that is that
I,
okay?
Yes. Yes.
this is
Yes,
why
you
I love
can.
this is why I love having Jamie on here, because she's giving us the real perspective. The
Yeah,
shit you think, hey, that
yeah.
shit
Hey,
don't go.
It
I'm
hey,
sounds
telling
no,
you.
good.
listen. I know.
Yeah. No,
I
I know.
know, but
I know.
I think it's all about what people have in their head
Yeah.
versus what actually is being communicated. Because there's been several times where I've communicated something, and Kay, you understand it. You like, Jamie, I think what Kay is saying is this. But Jamie's in her head like, nigga,
Yeah.
that nigga did this to me, and I ain't gonna let no nigga do that to me again.
Whatever. Shut up.
What, nigga? Oh, hell nah, nigga, you ain't having me over here with your kids, and I ain't doing. No, that's not what I'm talking about, Jamie. I'm talking about
I'm just trying to be honest.
you meet the
Yeah.
child, and things move like this, right? They don't necessarily go poop
But what I'm
like
saying, Kay, what I'm
quickly.
saying is women love attention. You know
Yeah,
that. Everybody knows that.
we know that. We know that.
Even knowing that that's your child, they want attention. Not because like to fight with the child. It's not even the tug of war of you to the child and me. It's
Mhm.
just women want attention. They just want attention, and they gotta have it. There's no way around that. They
They
Yeah,
want
want
it from
attention
yeah,
you.
they
from
no. Kay,
yeah.
it's
So
like you
all
said,
I'm
Kay.
saying, you're
It's
not wrong. I'm not wrong what you're saying, and I know but this is men and women, our brains think differently, blah, blah, blah. And I love the opportunity to communicate with you. But I do know that what I'm saying, like what you're saying sounds logical and it all sounds good. And I think for the most part, we're on the same page. But I'm also just saying, like, sometimes why stuff don't work out is because you got somebody like me over here, like, I'm not going to be able to do that because he's not, I'm getting scared.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is not
Okay.
feeling
Okay. So
safe.
let's explore that, Jamie. Let's explore that. I got like 10 more minutes. You good or you got to jump?
No, I'm good.
What you?
I'm good.
Okay.
How
All
long?
right.
I don't even know how long we've been
Jamie,
on.
let's explore that. Let's explore that.
It's wild.
What are you scared of? Because you just said, I'm scared. I'm scared.
It's
And
scary.
to me it seems like there's a battle with a lot of women I've dated, right? When it comes to like my child or meeting my child, it seems like there's a power struggle between them and my kid's mom. And my kid's mom, they haven't even met her. They don't even know her. But it seems like it's like a little power struggle going on, like, you
See, I
know,
can be honest about it because I'm not dating you, so I don't have
right,
to
right,
front as if it's all good. And well,
right.
I don't do that in real life anyway. But I'm just saying,
Okay. So
yeah,
tell us about it. Tell us about this.
we
Why are you scared and why is there a power
we
struggle?
do not. First of all, I in an ideal world, I don't want to get married to be on some list. I'm a
Mm.
priority. I am getting married for a union with one, not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What chick wants another broad, your baby mama, having any kind of say about what's going on? Ain't nobody studying her. Y'all, you done. So this is also why I don't date men with kids under 5, because it's like y'all don't have that worked out yet, and she's still pulling strings. And now you acting a certain way because she pulling string because of your kid. It's too much. It's not sexy. It doesn't feel safe. And no woman is about to give her whole self over in peace with your baby mama still pull. Please get it on paper, because this chick is not going to call on a Tuesday while we're doing whatever we're doing to start marrying that playing with you, because now your child, and me and you ain't no union yet. I don't want to hear it. It's not safe.
Spot on.
It
I'm
means at any
gonna tell you,
moment this
Jamie.
bride could call and pluck you right out the situation. I'm gonna sit here looking like boo
This,
boo the fool.
hey,
Okay.
I've been in that situation multiple times in my life. You're not bullshitting. This is exactly what happens, and that's why I agree with you, Jamie. Like, you, at least you understand what you want, and you are correct. Whether it's rational, I don't want to say it's irrational. I don't think it's irrational. I tend to agree with you, but I've been in that situation where, you know, the baby mom doesn't call or text or whatever, and like creates a scenario that now I have to deal with my wife, and like that shit goes south so damn fast, like
So fast.
so
It's
fast.
almost like you're married to
So
2 women.
it's not even as much that you're married to 2 women as it is that at least for me, trying to figure out how to like manage all of this shit. It's all
Yeah.
brand new. Like, I never experienced this before.
Yeah.
So how do I manage a baby's mother who I don't necessarily like? It wasn't about feelings about her. There was no feelings there. It was just, we have a son, and we're trying to figure out how we, raise him together and do this right. But then for her, I think there was some level of how can I mix this shit up and get, and put myself in between what they got going. And I as I look back, I think that was a more of what was going on. And I unfortunately allowed some of that to happen when I should have just cut that shit off. Like you said, like, there's like, nope, like, nothing. Like, we can talk about official shit, and we can talk about like anything that's like what time I got to pick them up, but any like, I'm not doing no special favors. I'm not doing none of that. Like, you got to be able to cut all of that off. But for someone like you who doesn't have kids, who doesn't need to deal with all of that, I think you're right. I think you're spot on in knowing that what you want out of the relationship doesn't involve somebody else being able to dial in, figuratively and literally into your relationship and the time that you have with your man. So by experience, the shit you're saying is 120% true. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's these. What I'm noticing is the real issue is not always the baby mom and the kid. It's these dudes without boundaries. You don't got
Hmm.
boundaries with your mama. You don't got
Yeah.
boundaries with your sister, your
Hmm.
auntie, your niece, your cousin. Everybody think they can call you, dude. They running all over your stuff. You have to have boundaries before I get here, because I did have a situation where it was successful with a guy who had a child, and me and the child's mom, we got along, because that's one of my things. It's like, if you're serious about me, me and her gotta get along. We gotta be cool. If we're in a real relationship and this is serious, I'm not doing no, she's over here. And it worked great. Like, me and the girl, we're still in touch.
Okay,
I will
she
talk to the
dreaming.
man.
She
No,
dreaming.
no, I'm not.
It
She
Listen,
don't
here's
work
what
like that.
I've been in. No, no,
But
no.
I,
I've been in
I
this
know, but
situation.
Jenny,
Me
you've
and the
been in it,
girl, we are
but she's
still
not in it
cool.
still. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just
Me, the
saying, like,
girl, her kid, all of that, we are still cool to this day. I don't talk to the man, me and
right,
this child's mother and this child, because him and I broke up from stuff that he did. But I mean, we
right.
did birthday parties together. We were on one accord, and that it worked. There was no
No,
problems.
I think there's exceptions to the rule.
But we were gonna get married. I was gonna marry this man, so
Yeah. No, I think that's part of the boundary. Like, there's got to be a separation of your son's mom, your kid's mother, and your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever. They don't need to talk. They don't need to hang out.
they
They
don't
don't.
need to
They
be
don't need
besties. It's not a bestie situation, but
no, it don't even need
cordial.
to be besties. You guys don't even need to be having birthday parties together. You guys should have a birthday party for them with your
Okay,
family.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and we'll do our thing. We might, like, the one time we commingled, that was like graduation. And it wasn't even as much of a commingle. It was just like, hey, we're doing a little something. You can come by if you want, and not in like a
Hmm.
pity way, but just, hey, come
Yeah.
on through. It was amenable, but, like,
Hmm.
no, that's part
I'm
of the
cool with that.
boundaries, and I think you're right. Like, the man has to set the boundaries, and that's where I had messed up early on. Once I learned that and I was able to do it, it was smooth sailing. But that, I
Okay.
think, is a boundary also that you need to set. That, no, you guys aren't about to be friends. You guys aren't
No,
about to be exchanging, stories and shit.
no, no,
Like,
no, 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 no. Not that. That's too far.
no, no, you guys aren't even going to be having like birthdays together. Like, all of what you just explained, no. Like,
I
we
mean,
got the boundary needs to be
I'd be
set.
at baby girl's birthday
Yeah,
because
I,
see,
I
she
I
get
was
it.
with.
No, look, I get it, but
I'm his woman.
I
Like,
think you're talking about where the boundaries are set. I don't need to be going to a birthday party with her. I need to me and my wife can set up something for the kid. Me and my girlfriend, we can do whatever it
that's
is that
true.
we think should be happening, and our families can do something. You guys
I'm
go
cool
do
with
your
that.
thing and
Hmm.
have a good time. Because another thing that does is the child, I don't care what happens. There's always somewhere in the back of their mind that my mom and dad can make this happen. Like, they can get
Hmm.
back together. And as long as there's still some, consistency in there, and there are people seeing each other, and there's,
Mm-hmm.
that always that talk, like, you become kind of like, all right, it's cool, but, like, the real goal for me is to get them back together.
Hmm.
So I would,
Okay,
that
I
my
understand.
advice,
yeah.
I would cut that as quickly as possible. And
Yeah, no, you're right,
I
Tay.
love that even more
Yeah,
because
you're
yeah,
ain't
right, Tay.
nobody trying
You're
to
right about
deal
that.
with.
And I've had a different experience. I've had boundaries, with my child's mother, kind of since we split. So I haven't really had that plucking you out of here, plucking you out of there, stuff like that. It's mostly, for me, it's mostly been like, I was supposed to have my child, on a Tuesday, and then the mom might say, "Hey, I have something to do on a Wednesday. Is it cool if she comes and does something with you?" And I'm always up for another extra day with my child, so I'm like, for sure, like, Send her over. I'll come scoop her up. Like, yeah, I'm daddy. Like, that's what it is. But it has never been something that has been like, oh, well, me and my girl, we got plans or reservations or a trip somewhere, and now I can't go because the mom, did something. Like, it ain't
Mm-hmm.
never been like that.
Well, good.
And
That's
so
good for you. That's
I've
good.
always had boundaries.
That's good.
I've even had boundaries so hard that, I've had some women who I've dated get upset because I wouldn't even take a call from my kid's mom in front of my girl that I was dating. That's how separate I
Oh my
was
God, I
keeping
would
it
love
at
that.
one
That's
point,
so
to where I would
amazing.
tell I would tell I would tell her hey,
I'm
I'm gonna
terrible.
take this outside.
That's good.
I would take this outside because I don't want to intoxicate what we have going on with anything that may happen between me and her on this
Hmm.
phone call,
Hmm.
because we have a lot of good conversations, but then there's also a lot of times where that conversation ain't so friendly. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to disturb my mood with you by
Yeah.
having a not so friendly conversation with her.
Hmm.
So I would excuse myself from the room. Hey, hold on. Let me take this. I'm gonna go over here, take this. I'll come back. We'll finish with what we doing.
Or
Give me
like you
5 minutes.
said,
Yeah, give me five
is
minutes.
it an
Here go. Let me
emergency?
buy
It's
you. Let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink or something. Let me make you a
like a
margarita.
toddler. Give her the iPad.
Yeah,
Let me give you the
yeah,
iPad
let me do
while I
something. Let me
take
do
this
something
call.
nice. But while I take the, let me keep you entertained while I take this
That is
call.
hilarious.
Yeah, and
But you know what?
so
I'll take it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so
It could
I
be
was I was
simple.
just I was just keep exactly just like you said, keeping it simple and making sure that I had boundaries so that what I had before isn't interfering or mingling or upsetting or disturbing what I got going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even had girls tell me like, "Nah, you better talk to that bitch. I want her to know I'm here." And I'd be
Oh
like,
God,
"Oh
no. That's
God,
just too much.
That's yeah.
That's just a lot. It doesn't
yeah,
need to be that. And
yeah,
and I don't, I may talk with you guys a certain way, but I don't carry myself like that. It's not
Yeah.
yeah,
no.
yeah,
No, I
I don't
think
think men deserve
I
that.
think
You know
you
what I
have
mean?
it spot on. Like you don't want to have to deal with it, and you shouldn't. And that's, I think for you, like you need a guy with no kids. Honestly, not in a negative way. Like that's just what you deserve, and what for the things that you're looking for in a relationship. That's where it's at.
I'm
Here's
starting
my
to see
thing.
that, you know.
Here's my
It
thing.
was
Here's
it's
my
hard to be
thing,
real
Jamie.
about that. Yeah.
Here's my thing, Jamie. I'm not gonna go as far as Kay and say you only need to date men without children. I think you, like a lot of women in today's age, have been disappointed by a lot of men.
Hmm.
And when you become disappointed by a lot of men, the trust for men dwindles. It dies. And I think if you really, really want to have a successful relationship, because I think you have all the tools to have a successful relationship, but I don't think you trust men. Or let me rephrase that. Let me bring that back. I'm gonna take that and put that back in my mouth. Let me spit out what I really meant to say. I don't think you trust the men you pick. That's what I meant to say.
Hmm.
Because I don't think you would have as many issues with the men that you pick if you trusted them. If you trusted that they were going to take care of you, and if you trusted that you
Yeah.
picked the right person, right? I think a lot of times women don't trust themselves. And when I say themselves is they don't trust that they've picked the right person because you don't have a good batting record in the past. And so it's like, did I really pick the right man? Because when you know you picked the right one, you don't got no problem trusting that dude.
I mean, I think you're onto something, and I think that makes sense. And I don't want to act like that doesn't play a factor because that's part of my accountability, right? But I also, it's like, yes, and I'm pretty good at, I will give you all trust in the beginning. I won't say yes to any type of too much dating or exclusivity if I don't trust you. But what I have learned, and I had this conversation on my YouTube yesterday, there's a difference between suppressing and communicating. I used to be a suppressor. I'm a communicator now. So, in my experience, I think that I'm doing the right thing, or at least walking down the path with somebody that seems whatever. But once some of this life stuff starts to happen, I'm starting to get out a little faster because evidence is showing me that, ooh, nope, because before it was a lot worse because I was suppressing. I wasn't saying anything about anything. Like, let me, and it just, I was not happy. So now it's like, okay, when I'm seeing these little things, I'm going to say something and give the man an opportunity to work with me to shift some things. When and if necessary. And if I'm not feeling safe in that, I'll just, I don't know if it's so much like, pick the wrong guy again, but it's just kind of like, no, no,
Yeah.
no,
I,
no.
well, one of the things that I think a lot of women get confused is agreement and trust, right?
Mm.
Because like you can be with a man and you can agree with him, and that, I'm sorry, disagreement and trust, not agreement, disagreement, right?
Okay.
Like you can disagree with a man, but there's still a level of comfort behind that disagreement,
Yeah,
right? Trust ain't comfortable. Trust actually happens when you're uncomfortable. When
I
you
agree with that.
disagree, you don't believe, you don't think it's right, you are staunchly against what that other person says, but your trust makes you go with it.
You're right.
That's trust. And a
You're
lot of
right.
times we think, oh, well, I disagree with you, but you know what? I'm gonna let it happen. No, that's because you was comfortable with that disagreement. That's because you was still comfortable with what you disagreed on. But the trust comes when you are uncomfortable. When
Mm-hmm.
you are like, no, my I don't want to
Hell
do
no.
that. And I don't think that what we are doing is correct.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's where the trust comes.
Yeah.
And I think most women date men that they use the word, they use the phrase, I trust you to a degree, right? I trust him to a degree, right? That
Yeah.
degree is uncomfortable, right? I trust you till I get uncomfortable. Well, you know what? That ain't trust.
No, it
That
ain't.
ain't
You're right.
trust.
You're
Yeah.
right.
The trust is uncomfortable. And I think that's
I would
where,
love to get to the point where I
yeah,
actually had that level of trust
yeah,
in a man.
yeah. And I
And it's
think
not
I think that's where I think that's where a lot of relationships go wrong is people
Yeah.
actually think they trust the other person when they don't.
Because it
yeah.
has to build. And that's why I was saying, too, some of these things that start off early, not just my situation, but just, in these first, like you said, 3 to 6 months, that's not built yet. Not for
Mm-hmm.
me,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, and that's why I say when people tell me that they trust in the beginning of the relationship, I don't think they really do. Me, I trust because I let people do them, and I let people do uncomfortable shit, and I will suffer through it to really make sure that this is the person who I think they are. I will,
Yeah,
and I get
my suffering gauge has shortened because I don't know. So you know what? I could take the onus on that. And when I say I trust people out the gate, it can only be a degree, right? Because it's not built. But even I feel like to get to that degree is a lot for me to give over my time, my energy, my this, my that. That's
right,
a lot. Like you in the
right,
door. So
right,
now what you gonna do with it is
and that's
kind
why
of
I
what I'm.
say, and that's why I say for me, I
Mm-hmm.
won't I won't get in a relationship with you
Mm-hmm.
for at least 2 to 3 months. Like we got to be
Yeah,
going
at
at it for two to
least.
three months because I'm not going to trust you when I meet you. I give you 0%. I think I said this a couple
You
episodes.
did.
I give you 0% trust when I first meet you. But
Maybe I can start doing that.
once I agree to being in a relationship with you, 100%, I'm gonna give you the trust even when I'm uncomfortable. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt.
Do you know
I'm
I
gonna say, you
just
know what?
went through this situation with a man that I'm not dating? Okay, the light bulb's going off. I do a show on Wednesdays with a man. He is a dating and relationship consultant, and I'm the producer of the show. So I'll send him what we're going to talk about, blah, blah, blah. We talk about it. I had sent him something, and he scoffed. He was like,
Ha!
yeah, he was like, yeah. So, but he was like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to trust her and let me check myself. So we get on. He says what he says. Once I say what I was going to say, he was blown away because he was happy with himself for trusting me. And it was such a moment for me because I was like, oh, he really sees me. He knows that my mission is what I say it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm not fronting on mine. Like, even though he thought like, oh, is she about to, because basically he thought I was about to send some more videos. Like, I'm just trying to get on men's case the whole time. And I'm not. I let him know, when the clip played, like, this is a human issue. I've done this, and it just gave him some relief, and it gave me, like, I felt seen and trusted, and he trusted me. It just kind of took our relationship. It's not romantic or anything, but to the next level, because it's like, we're both like, okay, this is what you're, who you say you are. I'm who I say. Like, there's some cohesiveness now, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it was built trust, and I love that.
Yeah.
It took both of us to get there.
Right.
It took him to be like, let me not say anything, and it took me to be who I say I am, and they both met in the middle. So I think that's probably one of my more recent things of trust with the opposite sex, where I'm like, okay, this is what that looks like. Oh my God, we're like.
I'll tell you one thing though, Jamie. That's a great one, but it's a lot easier when you're not fucking.